Welcome to the Retro Video Store Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to the Retro Video Store Podcast. I'm your host, Eric.
And I'm your co-host, Dave.
Yes, Dave is the co-host, our primary co-host for the day, because Neil is out this week. He's got a little family business he's got to take care of, so we're going to try something different. This will be the first time it's just Dave and I, so that'll be fun.
Yeah,
what do you think, Dave?
We're probably not going to get a ton of downloads.
Well, maybe we will. Don't neg yourself like that, man. So today we are talking about Piranha 3D from 2010, which is a remake of the 1970s classic Piranha, a Roger Corman-produced film directed by Joe Dante, who, of course, went on to do Gremlins and other big movies. This was a pure exploitation from Jaws, and we'll talk about Jaws exploitation here in a little bit as we get further into the movie. But it's kind of fun. This is new territory, just me and Dave. I think Dave is prepared mentally to take the burden and talk a lot.
That's right. Yeah.
And you're coming.
I'll do my usual. I got to do more than my usual 10%.
You're coming to us live from a hotel room in California, huh?
That's right. I'm out on assignment again. And I'm ready.
It's a very special episode.
Yeah.
So, I know you've been busy, but have you had a chance to watch anything this week?
I haven't watched anything in a couple weeks now.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I've been kind of busy at work, but I've managed to catch a little bit of a lot of stuff, like just jump in here and there to watch movies. And for some reason, Jaws 2 keeps showing up in my life. And I've been watching bits and pieces of that over the last month for some reason, and kind of have enjoyed that. I watched part of the movie Sisters today with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, which is really funny. My wife Jamie loves that movie, and that's been on a lot too. So I've been watching that. I have not watched the NBA Finals because it seems like a total drag. I don't care about either the Celtics or the Mavericks. So yeah, it's been kind of a vacancy in my life. I have, however, been watching lots of YouTube about movies. And I just kind of go down the rabbit hole and watch a lot of content about movies. And have you seen the trailer for the horror movie Long Legs yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, it looks so scary. And test audiences are saying it's like the scariest movie in like a decade. Like it is totally freaky. And they have this kind of viral campaign where on YouTube there's like weird like videos about a murder related to the movie, and it's kind of like, it looks like a modern day take on Silence of the Lambs, but maybe with a little bit of a supernatural kind of edge to it. And Nicolas Cage, I guess, plays the serial killer in the movie, but test audiences are saying it is scary as hell, and the trailers look scary as hell. And there's a lot of people like analyzing the movie in the background, trying to decipher the code from the movie and looking at stills and trying to figure out what's going on. So it looks like it's got all this kind of a underground hype going for it as a legitimately scary movie. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking it up. I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, it comes out July 12th. It looks pretty intriguing. And every once in a while, I mean, like every year, there's always one movie that gets hyped to be the scariest movie. But this one seems to be legitimately getting a really good buzz. Like it's the scariest thing since Hereditary a few years ago. So I'm excited to see it.
Well, and the fact that Nicolas Cage is playing a serial killer.
Yeah. And he looks freaky from like some of the screenshots you see of him. You see if he's like, looks like kind of like an old lady or an old woman with the long white hair and some stills and other stuff. So it looks pretty freaky.
Yeah, it looks very dark. I'm watching the trailer in the background. It's audio off, but I'm just watching the video of it, and it's the lighting and everything. And you said Silence of the Lambs. I can already see a few things.
Yeah, it is very freaky. I suggest checking the trailer out if you have not seen it. It looks pretty good. Um, I have watched a little bit of A Nightmare on Elm Street. It was on the other day, and I'm in this horror movie mood.
Yeah.
I'm always in a horror movie mood, but I
Yes.
want to watch some slashers, and
Yep.
that I kind of get that. I think June and July is. I feel like it's hot in the middle of the day, but I still get that Halloween. I know that autumn is coming next. That it's on the way, so I just kind of start getting in that mood for watching horror movies. But let's talk about Piranha 3D. And I will read the Internet Movie Database tagline. After a sudden underwater tremor sets free scores of the prehistoric man-eating fish, an unlikely group of strangers must band together to stop themselves from becoming fish food for the area's new razor-toothed residents. It's kind of a long
That
tagline.
is. Yeah. Yeah. That is a long one. And a little tongue twister there at the end, themselves becoming fish food for the area's new razor-toothed residents. You can't say that fast.
So this movie is directed by Alexandre Aja, who is a French director who has done quite a few good horror movies. He kind of put his name on the map with the movie Haute Tension, known as High Tension in the United States, where it's a kind of like a interesting survival horror movie with a weird twist at the end. I've only seen it once, and I remember really liking the beginning, but the end it kind of fell apart. He did the Hills Have Eyes remake in
Okay.
2006, which is a good one. It's a rough watch, but it's
Yeah.
kind of cool and it's got a good look to it. He did a movie called Mirrors, which I have not seen. It came out in 2008. And then Piranha 3D in 2010. He did the remake of Maniac with Elijah Wood, which is kind of weird. It's more of like a first person. There's a lot of first person kind of views in it, which I know Neil freaking hates first person's perspective when it comes to killer movies. But that one is odd. It's a remake of the infamous 1980s horror movie Maniac with Joe Spinell cutting ladies' scalps off and they all get revenge on him at the end in a very extremely bloody way. And the original Maniac has that amazing Tom Savini setup where the killer comes in and jumps on the hood of the car and shoots through the hood of the car and just blows Tom Savini's brains out. A really good stunt that is really memorable. Then he did the movie Horns with Daniel Radcliffe, who's based on Stephen King's son Joe Hill's book. I have not seen it. I have wanted to, but I just and I have not a chance to see it. He did also the movie Crawl with the alligators that are loose. That's actually a pretty good movie.
It was?
Yeah, in the flooding, the floods happen, and then it was produced by Sam Raimi, and I think it's on streaming. So maybe we'll have to do that someday. But it's a good nature run amok creature feature movie that was probably a little underseen, but is better than it would you would think it would be about alligators and stuff. So it's a good one.
I've almost watched that one a couple times. I just felt like it was going to be shit. And I couldn't bring myself to it.
Yeah, so he's got an interesting filmography. It's written by Pete Goldfinger and Josh Stolberg. I have not heard of these people, and I don't really think they've done too much after this. Josh Stolberg has a couple of credits. Sorority Row remake, which I want to see now, came out in 2009. He did a movie called Conception, another movie called Crawl Space, which looks like a video-on-demand horror movie. The Hungover Games, which is a parody of the Hunger Games, looks terrible. He did three Saw movies: Jigsaw, Spiral from the Book of Saw, and Saw X.
Oh boy,
yeah.
But his buddy wrote Piranha 3 Double D.
Oh yeah.
And let me just tell you about a couple cast members here. We've got Ving Rhames, Dave Kirshner, I
Oh,
think
David Koechner.
Koechner, yeah. Christopher Lloyd, Gary Busey, and I think the one that probably brings it home is David Hasselhoff plays himself.
Oh, wow. It
Yeah.
is available. I did see that Piranha 3 Double D is available to stream on Tubi, and I almost just went from Piranha 3D to that one, but I hear it's so much of a drop from this one compared to that one. I decided not to watch it, so maybe now I guess I have to check it out.
3
This
stars.
movie hits that sweet spot of being a movie that is entertaining
Yep.
and stupid, but intentionally stupid.
Yeah.
And the thing I like about it, you don't learn anything about it. It doesn't try to educate you. It doesn't try to make you learn anything about yourself. All you get is blood and boobs. That is what this movie has to offer.
And you get plenty of that.
Yes. Boobs aplenty.
Yeah. And blood. I don't know which one. I think there's probably more blood. There's so much blood in this movie.
Yeah, probably more blood than boobs, but it's got a nice ratio of blood to boobs. And I drug my wife, your sister, to see this in the theater. It came out in 2010, so we paid a babysitter to watch our child to go see this movie. Jamie probably was not happy. When I asked her about it, I go, "Do you remember Piranha 3D?" She's like, "Is that the one with Elizabeth Shue?" And I go, "Yeah." She says, "That was horrible." I'm like, "Horribly awesome."
Yeah. You shut your mouth. It's horribly awesome.
Oh, so since you are, the primary co-host today, you've got to say you're welcome, like Neil does.
You're welcome. Okay.
Yeah. When you make a valid point, you got to say you're welcome.
Okay. I haven't made very many valid points on this show, so I'll I'll do my best.
Okay. So the original Piranha was written by John Sayles, and John Sayles is an interesting character because he's mostly known for serious, kind of highfalutin kind of movies, but he is responsible for writing many genre movies, and he basically funded his most serious movies by writing all these crazy genre flicks. So he wrote Piranha. He did Battle Beyond the Stars, which is another Roger Corman Star Wars ripoff. He did Alligator, which is an amazing Roger Corman Jaws ripoff, which we'll have to do someday. The Howling.
The original?
Yep, the original Howling.
Okay.
But then he does more of the serious stuff like Brother from Another Planet, Clan of the Cave Bear, 8 Men Out, Matewan, Passion Fish, The Secret of Roan Inish. So he's a legit, really good writer and director, but he just enjoys making these genre movies. And that's what I like. I like guys who can do both, be a highfalutin writer, but also do some schlock. And this movie is the definition of schlock. And I was watching the original Piranha, just kind of prepping for this movie. And the original Piranha, the fish were genetically mutated by the army. And the first scene, of course, is like this couple that go out, "Hey, let's go swimming," and they go to this off limits like pool. And it's, of course, naked lady guy and a guy swimming around, and then they get attacked by the piranha, and the piranha break out and cause all sorts of havoc. And it's very bloody. And Rob Bottin, who did the special effects in The Thing, he was super, super young. He was a teenager, and he did the special effects for Piranha. Piranha 2, The Spawning, was mostly directed by Jim Cameron, and it is hilarious because the fish have wings in Piranha 2, and they're flying around and jumping on and eating people's faces, and it's hilarious. Have you ever seen Piranha 2?
I have not. And it's been a while since I've seen the first one, the original. So remind me, was the opening scene kind of like a ripoff of Jaws, right? It was at night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot of these, so many of these movies, especially the original Piranha, were derivative of Jaws. What sets apart the original Piranha is that it has smart writing from John Sayles and good directing by Joe Dante, two people that would go on to bigger and better things, but they're getting their start. Like we've talked about when we were talking in our Heather's podcast about when Roger Corman died, he was responsible for so many big directors getting their start. If you could do it cheap and you could do it, creatively, he would let you make a movie. And basically you would get paid by recognition, by people saying, hey man, they actually did a pretty good job on this. Let's give them a shot somewhere else. And one of the great examples is James Cameron in Piranha 2. And then he was like special effects on Galaxy of Terror, which is a really bad Aliens ripoff where this lady gets sexually assaulted by a gigantic maggot. It's really gross. But he did all these special effects, and he had maggots that were supposed to be moving, and they were dead, but he decided to run a small electrical current through the ground, and it caused the maggots to move. And I was like, hey, man, this guy is smart. He's not just, creative, but he's also smart. And that kind of helped him get more work, and then eventually doing the Terminator series. So that ability to be creative and make more with less is kind of the start for all this stuff. But this one is not more with less. This one is pure, we'll give you a good budget to make a shitty movie.
Yeah, and as you were saying that, I was remembering watching this, and I think when you said, okay, we're going to make a movie cheap, that I think they utilized the location realistically. Like there were 2 locations besides the kind of the beginning, a handful, but for most of the movie, they were stranded on the one boat. Yep. And then everything else takes place where the big spring break party was. So they had 2 locations, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And just
efficient.
A lot of blood. Yeah. Efficient exactly. And a lot of blood.
I imagine most of the money went to the cast, because the cast is surprisingly good for this quality of movie. You have Elizabeth Shue. She plays the sheriff, Julie Forrester. And you get Stephen R. McQueen. I'm not sure what he's done, but he's her son. Adam Scott from Parks and Recreation and a bunch of other movies. He's the funny guy, but he's also the underwater researcher researching the piranhas. You get Jerry O'Connell as Derek Jones. He's kind of like the Girls Gone Wild, producer kind of guy. Total ripoff of Girls Gone Wild.
He has the best death.
Yes, he's really funny. And you get your eye candy with Kelly Brook as Danny, and Riley Steele, a famous adult film actress, as Crystal. Ving Rhames is in this as a deputy, and he's pretty awesome. Richard Dreyfuss makes a small cameo at the beginning of the movie, and Christopher Lloyd is in this movie as well. The funny thing about Christopher Lloyd is he shot all his stuff in one day, and he's like second build on the cast, but he shot all his stuff in in a day.
I wonder if he was busy around that time too. He's like, hey, I got a real movie down the road, but
exactly. But I'm here to get my check and also do that. Eli Roth is in this, and he very convincingly plays a sleazy wet t-shirt contest wet t-shirt contest promoter who gets a nice death. And the special effects guru Greg Nicotero plays a boat captain. And when he's one of the guys that's carrying that girl who gets falls in half, where they're rescuing all these people out of the water, and the girl's screaming, and she falls in half. So critical consensus is actually very positive.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
I'm pretty surprised. So on Rotten Tomatoes, 74% of 133 critics reviews are positive, with an average rating of 6.2 out of 10. The website's consensus read, playing exactly to expectations for a movie about killer fish run amok, Piranha 3D dishes out gore, guffaws, and gratuitous nudity with equal glee. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average assigned to the film, score 53 out of 100 based on 20 critics, indicating mixed or average reviews. A tongue-in-cheek scholarly review of the movie was written for the journal Copea, which reviewed the movie as if it were a documentary film. Audience polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average of C on an A to F scale. That's bullshit. This movie's an A.
Yeah.
Because it gives you exactly what you want from this movie.
Yeah, what did you expect when you're walking into this movie? Remember, and I go back to what was the one I watched it with you in Colorado Springs, and the little worm things.
Slither. Yeah, James Gunn's movie Slither, yeah.
Yeah, you knew exactly what you were getting when you paid for Slither. Like they made that for a reason, and that's what I feel like this movie was made the same way for a reason, and you know what you're paying for. So
Exactly. You
yeah,
want to see people getting eaten by piranhas and killed in creative ways. This movie does it in spades, and you get everything you expected out of a movie called Piranha 3D.
yeah. And so Cinescore can shove their average grade of C up their ass. You're welcome.
Oh, Cinescore always amazes me because most audiences will give a movie an A, and even the shitty movies will get an A. But when you see CinemaScore give a movie an F, you know the movie is either colossally awful or epically great and totally misunderstood by the by the audience.
Yeah,
They just didn't get it. They're like, "Oh my god, this is too different," and they'll give it an F.
yeah. And then you look at the next, what Empire gave the
Mm-hmm.
film, right, and that write up pretty much lines up with what we're talking about.
Go ahead, Dave.
I can read this one? This is
Yes.
my. I usually don't like to read out loud because then I start stuttering. But here we go. Empire gave the film 3 out of 5 stars, saying, "Remember the film you hoped Snakes on a Plane would be? This is it. By any sane cinematic standards, Metacritic's trash, but throw at you with such good-humored glee that's hard to resist. It's a bumper sticker of a movie. Honk if you love tits and gore." Yeah, I like that. Honk, honk, honk. Chrissy Lemire, film critic, Associated Press, said, "Run, don't walk. Piranha 3D is hilariously, cleverly gory. Mere words cannot describe how awesomely gnarly Piranha 3D is, how hugely entertaining, and how urgently you must get yourself to the theater to see."
See, now
See it.
that is what those are good reviews because that's exactly what it is. You know?
Yeah, yeah. I'll read the
Hollywood
fun one. You
life.
can.
Okay,
You want to read the next one? That since this person is a well, no, hold on. This let me go. Uh, HollywoodLife.com called the film a campy masterpiece of a movie, adding, "If you have an ounce of fun in your body, you'll love this movie about killer piranhas that overtake a town of hotties in 3D." Right? Peter Hall said, "The gore, the nudity, the language, the gags, the characters, it's it's all always on the rise. Just when you think things could not possibly get more ridiculous, the film has peaked. Asia and screenwriters Paul Goldfinger and Stolberg managed to ram another syringe of adrenaline into its heart."
yeah, the
So,
Hollywood Reporter referred to the
yeah,
film as a pitch perfect guilty pleasure, serving the late summer schlock that handily nails the tongue in cheek spirit of the Roger Corman original. While stating Jaws it ain't, Asia exhibits little patience for such stuff as dramatic tension and tautly coiled suspense, and there are some undeniable choppy bits, but he never loses sight of the potential fun factor laid out in Pete Goldfinger and Josh Stolberg's script. The Orlando Sentinel gave the film 1.5 stars, stating that Piranha 3D goes for the jugular and generally misses, but generally in an amusing way. So even the 1.5 stars at least goes, it's funny at least.
yeah. Better than trying to be serious and give it a C. We're going to give it a fucking C. Fuck you.
The funny thing, we'll just talk about the movie in general. The plot is that it starts out, it's Dimension Films, which is the horror subset of Miramax. So Dimension Films put out a lot of crap during the during the 90s and 2000s. And you go and it's mesothelic area dig site. So how many places say that? So okay. You get Richard Dreyfuss cameo playing the same character in Jaws in a little boat, and he's quickly eaten by these terribly CGI'd piranhas. And I
Yeah.
wonder
Is
if
that
the bad CGI is intentional or not.
right? Well, and that's right when the earthquake happens, right? And then he gets the whirlpool going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really bad CGI right there.
Well, there was a kind of like a glut of 3D movies during that time, and it kind of it looks really bad, but I think it's part of the charm of the
Yeah,
movie. You're not expecting really good effects on this. So,
yeah. Well, and
I
I
mean,
think that's
the practical effects are really good, The stuff that Greg Nicotero and everybody's behind is really good, but the CGI is not so great.
Yeah. And that was around the time that My Bloody Valentine 3D came out.
Yep.
Yeah, same thing, just really bad CGI. I watched that, a couple of years ago. And yeah, it's bad.
I was looking at some of the releases that Dimension did. They really put themselves on the map with the Scream movies.
Yep.
And then they did the Scary Movie series, which made them a lot of money. They still have lots of awful direct-to-video releases like Children of the Corn, Revelation, Hellraiser, Hellseeker, Dracula 3 Legacy.
Oh.
Yeah. So how come every bad, and I probably have said this before, how come every bad horror series eventually has a movie called Bloodlines? There's Hellraiser Bloodlines. There's another movie coming up that usually is a good series, has a Bloodlines movie coming in out of it and coming up from it. So yeah, not good.
Yeah.
So what lets loose these prehistoric piranhas is an earthquake, and it causes these piranhas that have been stored underground for ages. And apparently we find out the big revelation is that they've been cannibalizing each other to survive. And Christopher Lloyd's basically playing Doc Brown. Marty, there's piranhas. We got to get back and stop these piranhas in the Mesolithic era.
I was going to say that's why it was so easy for Christopher Lloyd to film that day, because it's the same character. When he walks on set and they're like, "Hey, you know what you're going to do today?" And he goes, "Yep," throws the script over his shoulder and walks out there.
Exactly. What's my motivation? Money. What's your character motivation? Doc Brown. Okay. Gosh, Doc, there's piranhas. Doc. That's my Michael J. Fox. Doc. The sheriff goes to look for the missing, boater, like the Richard Dreyfuss character, and they find this really gross bloody hand. I love the bloody corpses that they pull out of the water. They're always they're all eaten up, and they did a really good job for the for all the gross corpses. And of course, this is set in spring break in a fictional Lake Victoria, which basically is Lake Havasu, and they filmed it on Lake Havasu. I don't know why they just didn't say, "Hey, this is Lake Havasu." But with spring break, you get a lot of eye candy, which they take full advantage of.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And Riley Steele, of course, is being one of them. I don't want to say that I have watched her movies, but yeah.
Anyway. You know who she is. You've heard of her. We've heard of her.
Yes, she's And also, once again, especially right now, I don't think there are many adult film actresses that we know by name anymore. But back in the DVD era, and this is kind of up to like 2010 around there, there were a lot of them were like, you knew who they were. They were well known, and Riley Steele was one of the last of that
that era.
Yeah, that era. Yeah.
God, do you think there's
Elizabeth
a podcast
Say again.
Do you think there's a podcast out there where somebody reviews VHS porn era?
Oh, we should start that.
Yeah.
1980s Spankovision.
Yeah, we'd probably have a lot more emails. So I was, "Hey guys, talk about this one."
I give this one 3 out of 5 hankies or 3 out of 5 Kleenexes.
Yeah.
Let's go back. I don't want to get off on too much of a digression here, but VHS, that era of the VHS, it was so shame-inducing. If you were going to go rent those at like a mom and pop video store that had like the room in the back, you were always afraid you were going to run into somebody that knew you, or like, they would, you would have like a late charge that you kept, and then you would they'd turn you into collections for keeping Brianna Loves Jenna for like 2 months or something like that.
Yeah. Or if you're too young to go back there, you hung out on that aisle hoping that when the curtain would open, you could sneak a peek at one
You
of
could
the
actually
covers.
take a look. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I think this is, another story. The first adult movie I ever watched was when I was at UNM, University of Mexico. We went to a friend's house for a party, and he's like, "Oh man, I rented, porno," and I'm like, "Oh man, what is it?" He's like, "Oh, it's called Aphrodisiac," and I'm like, "Oh really?" But then we looked at the title, and it was Afro, AFRO,
Yeah.
Disiac, and that movie was. We were not the right demographic for that movie. We were all a little bit disappointed. Not that there's anything wrong with that demographic. It's just that it wasn't for guys at 18 at that time. And, I'm digging myself in a hole, but.
In New Mexico, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Elizabeth Shue plays the sheriff, and she is still great, whatever she's in. She's a fun actress. She's game to do whatever. She's still really pretty, and she's really fun in this movie.
Yeah, she does a good job.
Mm-hmm. And there's her other teenagers, and I put teenagers in quotation marks because these kids are obviously in their 20s. The Wild Wild Girls group is in there, which is your basic your knockoff of Girls Gone Wild. Jerry O'Connell plays the sleazy promoter and filmer of these things, and he hires Elizabeth Shue's son to be the local guide to show him around the ravine or the reservoir or whatever of the lake, and he ditches his two young siblings, and of course the siblings are going to get in trouble. It's exactly the plot of Jaws 2. You got to babysit the kids, okay, and then the kids get in trouble, and you gotta rescue them. It's almost exactly the plot of Jaws 2. These movies are very formulaic.
Yes, I remember Jaws 2 now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In Jaws 2, the kids, he has his little brother on the boat, and Jaws capsizes a lot of the boats, and the kids on the overturned small boat, and he's got to swim to the bunch of the boats tied together, and that causes a lot of tension. And I always remember the one girl who's freaking out, we're all gonna die, and the guy gets pissed at her, and he just starts shaking the shit out of her. So Ving Rhames plays a deputy, and he gets a lot of action later on. There's a couple of jump scares, a lot of corpse pop-up scares in this movie, and then you get a lot of underwater voyeur shots of people's feet dangling in the water and things like that. It's just you got to pad the kills. Some random diver gets eaten for no reason.
Yep.
And of course,
has nothing to do with the plot. Has absolutely nothing to do with
the plot. But you gotta just
random fucking diver. Let's just kill that guy.
It's been 7 minutes since we had a kill. We better pad these stats and get a nice bloody kill in there.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the kids decide to go out on a boat on their own. They're both the kids are like 9 and 7, probably. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And they decide to go on the boat, and they get stranded on this little island on the lake, and little girl cuts her foot on a piece of glass, and you think the piranhas are going to get her, but she manages to get out in time. This movie does have a lengthy naked swimming montage with Kelly Brook and Riley Steele, and if you look at the trivia for this movie, it took them 2 weeks of training to prepare for this prepare for the scene. So talk about dedication.
Yeah, most people spend months learning how to train for a fight scene in a movie.
Yeah, I was looking at the trivia. Kelly Brook and Riley Steele spent 2 weeks training for their nude synchronized underwater swimming set piece. And I remember watching this in the theater when it happened. Jamie's just like, ugh, oh Lord.
I can hear her now.
Just rolling her eyes.
Yep.
So more trivia. The production crew estimated that 75,000 gallons of fake blood were used. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That seems like too much. That seems like an unrealistic number.
Yeah, what was the number? What they say the bloodiest movie was the oh god, not the uh Bruce Campbell remake. The
Evil Dead from 2013. That one
yeah,
had a ton of blood in that one.
did they say to this day that's still the bloodiest or most used blood ever?
Well, you check out the Google machine, Dave.
Okay, I'll get on it.
Most fake blood used in a movie.
Okay, I'm looking.
So going back, Joe Francis, who was the guy who was the original sleazy guy for Girls Gone Wild, was upset at Jerry O'Connell's character because he made him seem like he was super pushy to the girls and feeding them drugs and stuff like that, which actually pretty much is what you assumed he would be like in the first place. Anybody who does those videos, you would think that probably did that. I don't know if people remember how ubiquitous those advertisements were at night. You know, if you're watching MTV after 11 o'clock, the Girls Gone Wild videos would come up over and over and over again.
I remember.
You can order the DVDs. Call now.
Yeah, you stayed up late just to watch the commercial over and over, the same commercial. Just catch like the one girl. You're like, oh, there she is.
The interesting thing is there was no cuts demanded by the MPAA.
Really?
So they just saw this. I figured they would want to cut a lot of the stuff out of this movie, but they got an R without any cuts, which is very surprising. There's a tense scene where the divers, you know, Adam Scott has two divers going down to check the lake, and they see all the eggs underwater, and there's a little tiny piranha swimming around, and then they both get killed. I love when they pull the girl out of the water, the way her corpse is eaten up. It's so funny. You know, she's got the little tiny legs and everything's bitten up, and Adam Scott's got the other random bites on him from pulling her up. The corpses are just amazing in this movie. So you got to give credits to the special effects crew on this one. Okay, there's also 3D puke.
Yeah.
When the girl, she's drinking too much and she decides to puke over the side of the boat. That was interesting. Did you find out on your Google search?
I've got it. So it says a couple things here, but the one that keeps popping up, the 2023 horror film Iron Lung is said to use the most fake blood of any horror film, surpassing the 50,000 gallons used in the 2013 film Evil Dead. During the production, the director of Iron Lung even went to the hospital after getting too much fake blood in his eyes.
Huh, I never even heard of Iron Lung.
Yeah, let me look it up.
All right, give us a synopsis of Iron Lung.
Okay, let's see what this is about. Iron Lung. Okay, it's an hour and 35 minutes. Mark Fischbach is the director. It says plot kept under wraps. When the fuck did this movie come out?
Plot kept under wraps. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
I don't recognize a single actor or actress. So let me look it up in the old Google. Okay, stand by. Iron Lung movie. Let's see, Eric.
Riveting.
What do you think it's about?
Iron Lung. Either it's got to be some sort of supernatural horror movie if there's going to use that many gallons of blood.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
I need a crickets chirping soundbite.
Yeah. Iron Lung is an upcoming movie science fiction film directed by blah, blah, blah. The film is an adaptation of the 2022 video game of the same name. Premise: set in a post-apocalyptic future where an event known as the Quiet Rapture caused all known stars and habitable planets in the universe to disappear. A convict is sent to search an ocean of blood, discovering a desolate moon using a poorly constructed midget submarine nicknamed the Iron Lung.
Sounds dumb.
Yeah.
Hot take. Sounds dumb from Eric.
Yeah.
It should be more like sports talk shows. I'm going to tell you right now, Iron Lung, it sounds dumb. It's never coming out. It's not that good. They're losing the step. They're going to lose.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you where you're wrong. I actually enjoyed it. Then they go start arguing. You're
This
looking
is
at
the best movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, you're
You never have
missing
new.
the social implications of this film on today's society, and then they got to raise their voice. Some bullshit like that.
Skip, let me tell you, Skip. Skip. I always wanted Shannon Sharp just to punch Skip Bayless
Yeah,
when he was on the show. That just would have been
Yeah.
amazing. Remember that time where Jim Everett was on
Yeah.
the Jim Rome show,
yeah,
and Jim Rome kept calling him Chris, like Chris Everett. He said, "Do that
Yeah.
one more time," and then he like knocks him on his ass. That's one of the greatest clips you'll ever see on YouTube. It's out there. That was that's one of those things. Like you're, you don't have screen to protect you, guy. You're gonna get your ass kicked.
Yeah, Jim Everett, if I remember correctly, played college football at UNM.
Oh, really?
Or he's from Albuquerque, something like. He's got New Mexico ties somehow. That's
All right.
So
they find out the piranhas are prehistoric from Christopher Lloyd's character, Marty. The piranhas. I love the parachute gliding scene where the ladies on the parachute, and she's going in and out of the water, and then her legs get dipped into the water, and the piranhas eat her legs off, and then she comes up, and then she's just two stumps of legs. It's hilarious. It's a good gag. There's lots of good gags in this movie where the piranhas pop up and eat somebody's eyeballs out.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, with the my favorite one, we'll talk about. Well, let's just talk about it now. Is when the guy is going crazy as hell, and this is when everybody's panicking. The piranhas are set loose. The main cast is stuck on the boat, and they're trying to get it unstuck. But all the shit is happening in the main lake, in the bay where at the docks where everybody is partying. And they're trying to shoot a gun and say, everybody get out of the water. And it's too late and people are just, getting eaten left and right. And I always thought it would be fun to be an extra, one of the people who's hired just to start running out, and the water's filled with blood. But there's this part where this guy just fucking panics and he's using like a small boat with a little outboard motor and he's just fucking hitting people left and right and there's bodies and blood flying everywhere. But he gets stuck. And this girl's long hair gets stuck in the propeller of the boat, and he keeps, he's trying to start the motor, he's pulling on, and he finally does, and it rips her scalp off, and you can see her skull and the eyes kind of, just you see her eyeballs in the skull, and it's done so well. It's just such a gnarly kill. I remember laughing my ass off in the theater when that happened. And also when Eli Roth's character, he's the wet t-shirt contest promoter, and he's getting everybody stripping and stuff like that. And this other boat just comes at him and it squashes him between the two boats. And you see his head just kind of pop off and land on top of the boat. It's hilarious. Just there's some really good gags coming in. They're just having a hell of a time. Like, oh, let's figure out how we want to kill somebody. How are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? It's super funny. And when Jerry O'Connell gets eaten, they push it to the limit of good taste, which is amazing to me. I think it's super hilarious where they pull him out and he's all eaten up except for his upper half is still intact, but his legs are all tiny and eaten, and you can pick him up. He picks him up and he's like, "They took my penis. And then here in a little bit you see his penis floating in the water, and Piranha eats it. It's fucking hilarious. Oh, also when Riley Steele gets eaten, she gets consumed, and then you see her breast implants floating in the water. Super, super stupid. Super stupid, but it just is hilarious and funny.
But again, you know what you're paying for. Like
exactly
when you walk to that movie with your Coke and your popcorn, you're going to be entertained as fuck for the next hour and a half.
Yeah, because the movie is short. It is like 88 minutes long, but that's exactly as long as it needed to be.
Yeah.
They don't screw around. It's had a budget of $24 million, made $83 million at the box office. So it was pretty good return on investment. Released on August 20th, 2010. So it's now, 14 years old already. which is crazy to me. But yeah, there's so many fun things. I like Ving Rhames just takes his boat motor and he's just chopping fish and left and right, and then finally he gets eaten. Super funny. And at the end, there's just suspense where the teenage son's girlfriend, ethnically vague girlfriend, is stuck because the glass bottom of the boat, cracks, and she's getting, the piranha are flying at her and she's swatting them away and stuff. And in order to bait the piranha, he dumps Jerry O'Connell's body into the water, and he hastily comes up with the idea that he's going to blow up all the fish with some propane tanks, and that success is a successful. But it's funny that it just kind of like ends. It doesn't end great, but it just kind of ends with a kind of contrived ending.
Yeah, because you think like it blows up, right? Because she thinks the son dies, right? The Elizabeth Shue. Yeah, but he makes it.
Yeah, because he ties a rope around his waist, and they pull him away just in time to get them all out, and then the propane tanks blow up, and you see all these fish croak, and they float up to the top of the water. But then you find out the big twist that all the fish that we had seen were the baby fish. And then Adam Scott's character is like, "Where are the parents at?" And then he gets knocked out of the boat, and then the movie ends, teasing us giant piranhas in the next movie, which I haven't seen 3 Double D, so I don't know if that they pay that one off.
Well, it's weird. Just Ving Rhames is in 3 Double D.
Yeah, how did he live from this from the first movie?
Yeah, and David Hasselhoff's patch is like a police-looking patch on his jacket that he's wearing, and it says the Hoff Watch. Yeah.
So there's as they say in Spinal Tap, there's a thin line between stupid and clever. It sounds like 3 Double D goes into the stupid territory, where this movie just walks the tightrope of stupid and clever.
Yeah, this one went from 6.2 out of 10 to 3.3.
Oh, yeah, that's a big drop.
Yeah.
Big drop in quality. But I looked up a list of Jaws ripoff movies, because Piranha would not exist, and the Piranha series would not exist without Jaws. And this from retrojunk.com, there was a list of Jaws ripoffs from the 70s. And some of these movies I have seen, some of these movies I only know by reputation, but some of them are really dumb and some are actually decent. Grizzly is one I remember seeing as a kid, and I have not seen it since. I think it's relatively hard to find streaming wise, but it's basically Jaws on the land. The plot is exactly the same. A sheriff tries to convince the mayor of a town that there's a big threat to campers, and the guy's, I don't believe you, and we're not going to close down camping and all that kind of stuff like that. And the grizzly kills a bunch of people, and he eventually kills it with a rocket launcher at the end of the movie. And it's got Christopher George, who is he's the sheriff, and he is in so many exploitation movies. He was in the movie Pieces. He's one of the detectives in Pieces.
Oh.
And he's also the bad guy in Enter the Ninja. He's the guy who hires the black ninja to go kill the white ninja, and he's the one who's trying to do the buy all the land from our hero's best friend. So he's in so many exploitation movies, Christopher George. There's one called Orca, the Killer Whale, which flips the premise of Jaws, because the humans are the bad people and the orca is pissed off because they killed the orca's baby. They just wash it off the deck. It falls out of the orca, and it looks really gross. And they just kind of spray it off the deck of the boat. And the orca is smart enough to sabotage the town's like oil supply and blows up stuff. It is really dumb. I don't remember it all the way. I just remember seeing it as a kid and being grossed out by the orca's baby falling out. There's another one called Tentacles, which actually has a pretty good cast. It's got John Huston, Shelley Winters, and Henry Fonda.
Yeah.
That was a Jaws ripoff.
Special appearance by Henry Fonda.
Yeah. And there's a movie called Great White, which was so like Jaws that Universal Pictures sued the makers and had it pulled from theaters because it's basically, just insanely derivative and, was not really different in any way. The poster is hilarious because it's got this girl, in a bikini on a little flotation raft thing,
Yep.
just leisurely laying down, and this gigantic great white's about to eat her. She's none the wiser. Another one, of course, there's Barracuda, the Jaws of Death, Rattlers, which I guess is snakes, Squirm. I remember it's worms. And the only thing I remember really about the movie is that this person is taking a shower and they're washing their hair and stuff like that, and worms are coming out of the shower head on top of her. It's the only thing I remember about that movie.
And then the classic, the next one.
Great White Buffalo. This is hilarious. I was watching a couple of videos about Jaws ripoffs, and this one has Charles Bronson, and the Great White Buffalo looks hilarious in this movie, and now it makes me want to watch it.
Have you seen it?
I've never seen it, but I've watched it like a preview, and it was in a video about Jaws ripoffs that I watched. It was pretty entertaining. A movie called Night Wings is about bats. Empire of the Ants, that goes without saying, ants. Piranha, the original. Alligator, which is great. And there is a Internet Movie Database list of more Jaws ripoff movies, and some of them are crazy. The Italian Jaws ripoff, there's one called Cruel Jaws, and it was directed by Bruno Mattei, who was known for a lot of zombie movies and cannibal exploitation pictures. There's another Italian one called Devilfish. There was one called Mako, the Jaws of Death, which is really awful because they actually killed sharks, real sharks, when making this movie. So don't recommend that one.
Yeah, that's rude.
Up from the Depths, Grizzly.
Can I say something about the White Buffalo?
Yeah, go for it.
We watched that one a ton as a kid.
Oh, really?
Kids. Yeah, we had it on VHS.
That's funny.
Yes, I remember it. Dad would always, he'd pass out, but yeah, we'd always watch White Buffalo.
Pass out.
And it had the shots of like the buffalo, like over the shoulder of the buffalo running through, and it was just the funniest thing to see the head and the shoulders moving, and then all this trees getting knocked down and stuff. And Charles Bronson was brought in to kill the white buffalo. It was, and I still remember the end scene when it's charging Charles Bronson and he shoots it, and the way it falls in the snow and just slides towards him and stops a foot from him. Yeah, I highly recommend it. It's entertaining.
So the movies that we're talking about are all kind of a part of a bigger genre, the nature Run Amok movie. And there's like even a Wikipedia page dedicated to natural horror movies and nature Run Amok movies. And even funnier is that they are broken down into specific genres. So you have arthropods, Kingdom of the Spiders, Arachnophobia, which, did we do Arachnophobia yet?
No, we need to.
Okay, that's a really good one. Ticks, Eight-Legged Freaks, which we've done, which is pretty funny. Big Ass Spider and Lavalantia. The movie called The Bay is about crustaceans. That's actually an underrated movie, The Bay.
Yeah.
You got the birds, Beaks, and Caw, the movie. Birdemic, Shock and Terror. You got Piranha, Piranha 2, Piranha 3D. And there was a made-for-TV movie, a remake of Piranha back in 1995. Tons of shark movies. Tons of them. Including Deep Blue Sea, which we have done an episode on. That was kind of funny. Lots of ant movies. Them, which is giant ants. Empire of the Ants. The Naked Jungle, which is about army ants. Some bee movies. Not bee movies, but bee movies about Buzz Bee. You got Savage Bees, The Swarm. Deadly Invasion, The Killer Bee Nightmare. Stung, which is about mutated wasps. That sounds awesome. Lots of bear movies. You got Grizzly, which you talked about, and Prophecy, which I remember as a kid scared the shit out of me because it's like this mutated bear that is killing people, and it has Talia Shire, Rocky's wife, in this movie. And it was written by David Seltzer, who wrote The Omen. And the poster scared me because it's like this embryonic mutated bear. And I remember passing that box over and over again as a kid in the video store.
Yeah, look at that bear.
And of course, Cocaine Bear, which came out in 2023, which is pretty entertaining. I wish it was better. I thought Cocaine Bear was good, but I kind of wished it was more bloody. It was more like Piranha than it should have been. It should be more like Piranha, more deadly kills and stuff.
Yeah, it was entertaining though.
Yeah. And of course you got canines, you got Cujo, a movie called The Pack, The Breed, in dolphins. Well, orca in that one. It's not really a dolphin. Razorback, pigs and pig hunt. Primates, blood monkey, Shakma, lots of rats, Willard, Ben, Deadly Eyes, Graveyard Shift. Night of the Lepus, which is hilarious, is about giant rabbits.
Hell yeah.
Tons of alligator movies. Lake Placid, Crocodile, Blood Surf, Crawl, Snakes, Anaconda, which we need to do.
We do need to do Anaconda.
Really cheesy one we'll have to do.
Yep.
And Snakes on a Plane. Lots of worms movies. Squirm, Blood Beach, and Attack the Giant Leeches. Tons of those movies. All ripoffs of Jaws, but all reasonably entertaining. Sometimes you just want to sit down and watch a giant monster movie and or a mutated bear kill people. You should enjoy it.
Yeah, it's entertaining.
I think one of the reasons I don't like a lot of the sci-fi like movies like 10-Headed Shark Attack or all those things like that is that they know they're stupid and lean into the stupid rather than like Piranha, which is kind of a combination of well done and stupid intentionally, or even better to me is a movie made sincerely where they really think they're making a good movie and it is stupid unintentionally. Yeah, I think those are hilarious. Like Night of the Lepus, where they're making these tiny sets and they have these giant rabbits running over sets and stuff like that. To me, that is fucking hilarious because they wanted to make it serious, but it's just they failed on so many ways. That is kind of the campy horror movies that I like. Instead of Lavalancha, where they're not making it for any other reason to be stupid.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you, David, for joining me solo today. I think Neil will be back next week, and we're going to do the Hellraiser remake or the reboot from last year that is on Hulu. Neil likes it quite a bit. I have not seen it yet, so I'm excited to see it. Since
I haven't even seen the original.
You haven't seen the original Hellraiser?
No.
You got to do it, man. I know it's always streaming somewhere.
Okay, maybe.
So you got to watch the original and you got to watch the remake.
Okay.
One thing about Hellraiser, the first one is really good. Hellraiser 2 is not bad, and after that, they're shit. Really, really, really bad. Really bad.
I don't think I'll make it past the first one.
Yeah, but then the remake I hear is pretty good, so hopefully they'll continue with that. But, whew, they get really bad. Like Hellraiser Hell on Earth, you got like Cenobites that have like CD players or CDs that shoot out of their heads, and they just get really ridiculous. And of course, there's a Hellraiser Bloodlines and a Hellraiser in Space. Your series is going off the rails when you go into space.
Yep. We still haven't done the Friday the 13th, right? Where Jason goes to space or whatever.
No, we have. Remember, we did that with the guys from the podcast.
Dave and Doc
podcast. Yeah. We did that. I think we're actually done, except for Freddy versus Jason. Did we do Freddy versus Jason?
We haven't done Freddy versus Jason.
Okay, we need to do that. We have done almost 300 episodes. We're getting closer and closer to 300, so it's kind of hard to.
Oh wow.
To remember every episode we did, or maybe
the show's been around that long, huh? We still have been canceled.
I gotta check because maybe I'm talking out my ass. Maybe it's 200. It feels like 300 sometimes.
Well, thanks for letting me fill in as number 2.
Of course.
Next week. I'll go back to my usual role of just being quiet and laughing in the background.
I'm talking out of my ass. We are at episode 194. So we're 6 episodes away from episode 200.
We have to do something special for 200 then.
I know we do. We'll have to figure out something that we haven't done, some big movie.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, everybody. If you want to send us an email, rvspodcast222@gmail.com. We are on Threads, and we're on Instagram, and we're on Facebook. If you want to contribute to the cause, go to buymeacoffee.com and look up the Retro Video Store. It helps us keep the lights on this money-losing proposition. Yes.
Well, I liked it. It's a good movie. Go watch it. Piranha 3D. You can't go wrong.
Yes, definitely. Check it out. And have a good week, everybody.
Okay, goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Retro Video Store Podcast.